Potiphar took Joseph and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined in the palace. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. God showed him kindness and granted him favour in the eyes of the prison warden, who was the big boss in charge of the prison. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything. He didn't have to worry about anything because under Joseph's care he had great success because the Lord was with Joseph. Some time later, 2 men offended their master Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh put them in the same prison where Joseph was confined, and the captain of the guard, Potiphar, gave them to Joseph to look after. After the 2 men had been in prison for some time, both of them had dreams on the very same night, and each dream worried each man. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw they were worried, and he asked them, "Why do you 2 look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," said one. "But there's no one to interpret them," said the other. Then Joseph said, "Well, God knows the meaning of dreams. Tell me your dreams." So one of them, who was the chief cupbearer, who used to carry the wine to Pharaoh and look after all the wine in the palace, well, he said to Joseph, "In my dream I saw a vine growing in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches, and as soon as it blossomed, clusters of grapes appeared. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into the cup, the juice, and put the cup in his hand." "I know what it means," Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will call you back and restore you to your old position, and you will again be his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, kindly remember me and mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. I've done nothing to deserve being put in this prison." And then the other man, who was the baker for the palace, making all the breads and cakes, when he saw that Joseph had given such a good interpretation, he said, "In my dream, on my head were 3 baskets of bread, and in the top basket were all kinds of baked goods, loaves of bread, cakes, so on. But the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head. What does it mean?" Joseph said, "Well, this is what it means. The 3 baskets are 3 days for you, but I'm sorry, but in 3 days Pharaoh is going to execute you, and birds of the air will come and eat from your dead body." Well, 3 days later, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for a whole lot of people in his palace, all the officials and special workers. He made the chief cupbearer and the chief baker come out of prison and stand in front of all of his guests at his party. He gave the chief cupbearer back his position, and he commanded that the baker be executed, exactly as Joseph had said in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. In fact, he forgot all about him. And it was 2 full years later that Pharaoh had a dream himself, an unusual dream that bothered him. He was standing by the Nile in the dream, when out of the river came 7 fat cows, and they started walking among the reeds and the grass next to the Nile, grazing and eating. But after them came 7 skinny cows out of the Nile, and they came right up to the 7 fat cows and ate them. Pharaoh woke up sweating. He fell asleep again finally and had another dream. This time there were 7 heads of grain, healthy and good like wheat, and they were all growing on one stalk. But after them, 7 unhealthy, thin heads appeared on a stalk, and then the thin heads of grain just swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads of grain. Grain is what you make bread with. And Pharaoh woke up again, sweating and upset. And in the morning he was still troubled by the dream, so he sent for all the wise men of Egypt. And when they were all there, he told them what the dreams were, but none of them could tell him what they meant. And then the chief cupbearer heard about it and suddenly remembered Joseph. He said to Pharaoh, "Sir, I remember that once you imprisoned me and also the chief baker, and we both had powerful dreams on the same night, and we worried about what they meant. Well, there was a young Hebrew man in prison with us, and he told us what they meant, and the things that he said came true exactly word for word, like what he said. You restored me to my position, and the baker was executed. Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph, who washed and shaved and dressed before he came and stood in front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one can interpret it, but I've heard it said that you can interpret dreams. Sir, it is not me, Joseph replied, but God will give Pharaoh the answer you seek. Pharaoh told Joseph the dream about 7 skinny cows eating 7 fat cows, and 7 skinny dry grains swallowing 7 healthy grains. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams you have had both mean the same thing, Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. The 7 good cows and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 good years. 7 good years of food and water is what they mean. The 7 lean, skinny cows and the 7 dry heads of grain are also talking about 7 years, but they are 7 bad years of famine and drought. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. There will be 7 years of full water in the Nile and bountiful harvests from your farms. But 7 terrible years of dry famine will follow them. Hardly any water in the Nile, no rain, and your farmers will grow no food. All the good years will be forgotten, and a severe famine will ravage the land. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 dreams is to warn you that God will do this, and he will do it soon. Pharaoh looked shocked, and Joseph continued, Sir, you must put a wise man in charge of the land of Egypt immediately and give him officers to help him. They should collect as much of the extra food as possible in the next 7 years and store it up in cities all over the country. This food should be kept for use during the 7 bad years of famine that will come upon Egypt afterwards, so that your country may not be ruined and thousands die during the famine. Well, the plan seemed very good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh immediately said, Surely, since God has made all of this known to you, you shall be in charge of this country, and all my people are to submit to your orders, for no one else is as wise as you are. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh took off one of his rings, the signet ring of power, and put it on Joseph's finger. Pharaoh dressed Joseph in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in a special chariot, and he even had people run ahead of the chariot and calling out to everyone in the street, make way, make way. And thus, in a single day, Joseph went from being a nobody hidden away, doing his best to survive in a prison, to being in charge of a whole country, the land of Egypt.